Hey, hey.
Hey, hey, hey.
How's it? You're in a new place every time I see you.
I'm in the same place. I rotate the camera 90 degrees so that it looks like a new location each time. Before we start, I want to ask you a very important question. What's the weather like there?
What's the weather like here?
Yeah.
It's nice summery weather. It's not too hot. It was about
Okay.
80 degrees.
No thunderstorm, no earthquake, no tsunami, nothing that's going to screw up our show like it did last week.
No, nothing scheduled for the next hour. No.
Because I got left all alone for a while.
Yeah, you
And
did.
then you called in and we wrapped it up on
Yeah,
speakerphone.
it was an exciting. I think it was an exciting way to do the show. I think that was real thrills and spills. That was real, actually happening in the moment. Crisis, lost internet. Didn't lose
Yeah.
anything else. Everything else in this neighborhood was fine. Amazingly, I know a lot of people didn't have it so lucky, but we were good except for that.
I got to hear that sound, that phone alert sound yesterday again during one of my classes at the college. Everybody's phone started going off with that alert sound, and somebody said, "Oh, Amber Alert," and we all picked up our phones, and it wasn't an Amber Alert; it was a Silver Alert, and I happened to match the description of the elderly person who was lost.
Oh,
And I thought my students were going to report me and bring me to the
oh,
dean's office.
I didn't know. I actually didn't know what a silver alert was. That a technical term?
It's a new. It's the opposite side of the Amber Alert when an elderly person, wanders away from their
Yeah,
home and nobody
right,
can find them.
right. Well, it's a
Yeah,
serious problem. I
it
know a
is a
few
serious
people who've had
problem.
to deal with that. That's no fun. Uh, okay, interesting. Silver alert.
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
video is frozen now.
So my video is
Maybe,
frozen.
or unless you're having a senior kind of weird moment
Maybe I'm
where you
having a senior
froze.
moment. I ran a speed test, and I've got good speed here apparently.
I don't know what the heck to say.
Um, I don't know what's going on.
Do you have an Ethernet?
It's very
You don't
upsetting.
have an Ethernet connection, I'm guessing.
I will tomorrow when I
Okay.
get to my new apartment.
Well, we should
Um,
do the show tomorrow. So
yes, tomorrow I move into my new apartment finally, and I
that
have
is exciting.
eight eight gigajillion download speeds, and it's gonna be a whole new show.
I'm
5K.
wow.
Everything's gonna be 5K, and I'll be my new webcam is in Alexa. So
Okay. Is that a
yeah.
car? I don't know. I'm sorry.
No, the Alexa is like the high end camera that all
Oh,
the kids are talking about these days.
that's the robot that Will Smith fought in one of his films.
Right. Yeah. Or it's the thing from Amazon that will talk to you and tell you the weather in case you don't want to look outside. So um, I'm a little upset with you.
Great. I love to start this way.
You
Bring
like
it.
to start with me angry at you,
There's tension in the air
and there's a lot of tension. I'm all on edge. Haven't been able to sleep,
because of
and
something that,
it's because of you.
well,
Do you
I
know
don't,
why? Do you know what it is that is
I have no idea.
brand new cherry flavor
Oh, ha, ha, ha.
is messing up my brain
Yes.
in a
Um,
really bad way,
which is a good way, right?
which is a good way
Okay.
for a show. And for those of you out there in TV land, brand new cherry flavor is a Netflix horror show. Um, it's the first movie that I've seen that uses that thing of reaction video. You know, that thing of reaction video that's on the internet where people post videos of themselves reacting to something. Well, the young woman in this movie has made a student film. And for a long time, for many, many episodes, you don't see the movie. but you see the reactions of people when they're watching the movie,
Yeah.
and you start to not really want to see the movie.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm so excited. I hope that my friend and co-host on the show Rated P for Paranormal, Maddie Blake, is listening. So I know he tunes into our show on occasion. And Maddie, if you're out there, I hope that hope you feel great right now. We reviewed Brand New Cherry Flavor on Rated P for Paranormal this week. That show dropped this morning. And Maddie and I had the equivalent of our race with the devil on that one.
he didn't like it.
Nope.
Well,
We fought it out good. We duked it out.
really? Okay. Well, he's wrong.
Okay. Boy.
if,
Maddie, I hope you're listening.
Yeah. he's just wrong.
That show got really good under my skin.
And I'm going to have to listen to that episode of Rated P for Paranormal because I want to know. Clearly, it affected him on some deep level that he's, things that he's not willing to look at, I think is what the problem is.
I tried to poke holes in his theories and say that there's some subconscious, fear that he had, but he didn't go for it. He just didn't like it. We fought bitterly.
Wow.
It was a classic show for us on that level.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that show is hurting me.
Yeah, it gets in your mind and hurts you if you're not Maddie. Maddie Blake wasn't scared, didn't care, wanted it to be over as soon as possible.
And it also makes me a little scared of all of my film students at Dodge.
Yeah, I know. I mean, not to belabor it, but you and I were both in LA in the 90s. And
yes, we were.
I think it's a remarkable trip back in time for me and you to see such a recreation of it. It's really very well done that way.
Yeah, very well done, and very, very, very not happy making.
It's unnerving. It's
very unnerving. What else?
Cool.
But what's going on with you?
What's going on with me? Not a lot. We start teaching on Friday. Amelia and I our class starts on Friday. So
in person?
We're figuring that out. Most of our class will be remote. Some of it will be in person, but there's apparently a lot of confusion about adjuncts signing in with their COVID papers and stuff. So we may have to do it remote from the beginning. I don't know.
Gotcha. Okay.
But we're looking forward to that. And, other than that, just happy to be back in a weekly thing with our show. And
now
I'm back doing Maddie's show again. We both had hiatuses on these shows. And so, it's kind of getting back to normal. It's been good.
Yeah.
And you're excited. You're moving into your place tomorrow. So I forgot it was tomorrow. So congrats.
So excited. So incredibly excited. And as I said, 8 million gigawatt download upload speeds at the new place. So
okay, well, fantastic.
Yeah. So I guess there's no more avoiding it. Okay, maybe there is some avoiding it.
Bugsy concurs.
Yeah, we've got a movie to talk about.
Yeah, it's everybody. I mean, we announced it. It's on Instagram. It's
a movie called Some Like It Hot. Came out in 1959. Stars Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, Marilyn Monroe. Directed by Billy Wilder, and written by Billy Wilder and I.A.L. Diamond.
Yes, indeed.
Same fellows who brought us last week's movie, The Apartment.
Indeed. Which was made after this movie.
After we're going back in time.
Mm-hmm.
The Apartment was in color. This is in black and white, but that was a choice, not because black and color was invented between these two movies.
The Apartment is in color?
Wasn't The Apartment in color?
No.
Oh, okay, all right.
Did you
Oh
see
no,
the
no, I'm.
you saw the Ted Turner version?
Yeah, no, I did. I no, I got confused. What I was thinking about was that the choice to make this in black and white. What there was a big hullabaloo about whether or not to make this in color or black and white,
Oh,
because
okay.
Marilyn had a thing that all her movies had to be in color.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But then there were problems with the makeup. Spoiler alert: Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon dress as women throughout most of this movie, and there were problems with the makeup that in color it looked green, apparently,
Makes total sense.
and they didn't want it to look like outtakes from The Wizard of Oz.
So, in other words, they were more invested in Jack Lemmon looking pretty than they were in Marilyn Monroe looking pretty, as she
Yes,
wanted to look.
and yet they failed. Marilyn
And
Monroe did look better
she's
than Jack Lemmon.
actually is more attractive than Jack Lemmon, I think.
Yes, yeah, she is.
Yeah.
I actually think Tony Curtis is more attractive than Jack Lemmon too, but
Okay. I don't,
that's
a few people would argue that probably with you. I don't think this is a hot button issue
no.
of like, I think Tony Curtis was considered to be a heartthrobby, young, handsome man. And Jack Lemmon was, was a comedian.
Yeah.
Handsome, a delightful looking man. I'm not saying he didn't look great. Jack Lemmon was very handsome. I'm digging a hole here. I didn't even want this.
Speaking of, Tony Curtis and being dressed as a woman, we do have, I promised you last week a photograph of me.
Yes.
Or I actually have two photographs of me when I was playing a woman, and shades of Tony Curtis, I think, perhaps.
Honestly, you look like somebody doing Tony Curtis in this movie right now.
Okay, and now here's another photograph.
Just for the record, Matthew, for those listening at home, which is everybody, let's face it.
Yeah.
Matthew's wearing a dark wig, probably a black short cropped wig, and kind of metallic pink lipstick, and very kind of interesting nail polish. I would say kind of gold brown nail polish.
But I have a photograph. If you want to see an even more striking Tony Curtis resemblance, I think this was a photograph before I'd gotten into costume, and they'd just done some of my makeup, and I think it's pretty striking there.
Yeah, that's real. That looks like Tony Curtis in Magnum PI.
Yeah, there you go.
That's when he guest starred.
Older Tony Curtis.
Yeah,
right.
That is great.
Pretty alarming, huh?
That is great. Yeah. You got the bona fides. You've done work in drag. That's impressive.
This was a show. You can find it on YouTube called Verdine and Glenita. And I played Aunt Betty.
Did Billy Wilder direct that?
Billy Wilder did not direct it. But if you do want to see a makeout scene between me and George Wendt, that's the place to go. I know people have been, talking about that for years, hoping to see that matchup.
Hashtag making out with George Wendt is exploding right now.
It's trending right now. There you go.
So, okay, we have a lot to do tonight. We've got a lot to discuss. We have a guest. We have things. So we should really start talking.
We should move it along. Okay.
I'll
when we drop this as a podcast, I'll edit out everything we've just done. Well,
or we could just not do that anymore and just talk. We're save you time, save us time. It'd be great.
All right.
This was the first time you saw Something Like It Hot?
Yes, it was.
Okay. What?
And I venture to say it's going to be the last.
Okay. Wow. Okay. This is an interesting. This is interesting.
And I went into it having loved The Apartment, and thinking, all right, Billy Wilder, I'm gonna just adore this movie. And I sat there the whole time, sort of doing an imitation of you, when you doing one of my favorite things, my imitation of you is when I just go, huh.
So interesting, man. I saw this movie before. I saw it when I was, I don't know, 15, a teenager, 15, 16 years old. Rented it at Blockbuster, like everybody would have, and didn't really respond to it as a teenager. I didn't connect with it. Didn't really think it was funny. Um,
So I'm a teenager, you're saying?
no, I'm saying what makes it interesting is that usually a movie that I saw when I was 15, and then I see again as a 35-year-old, as I am now.
Yes, yes.
Uh, as an immature adult, you kind of see a different movie. Like you think, and I had the same exact. It didn't really change for me, and I felt really odd about it because it's such a classic film. It has a list of things about it that I think I'm like, this has got to work. This has got to work. How is this not working for me? And I gotta say, like, I admire the construction of it. The idea of it is brilliant. There's some very funny dialogue. There is some like brilliant stuff going on. It's very smart, but I didn't laugh like at all.
Me neither. I'm not, and the the there's so much of it that I just said, really, that's the choice. I kept thinking, what if Preston Sturges had directed
I
this
thought the
movie?
same thing. I thought the same thing. Or Howard Hawks, or
Yeah,
and that's not this. I know. Look, this is a weird thing to say about a movie that's this revered and this classic a comedy for so many generations, but I really feel like this is not Wilder's wheelhouse. Like, I think Billy Wilder needs, for me, much, much smarter, darker satire, more, slightly more biting stuff than this was for me. I just felt like the abandon and craziness of a screwball comedy was kind of replaced by a very kind of like sterile, almost kind of Kubrick kind of style approach to it, which I just didn't find funny, and I thought the two of them were super manic in a way that didn't serve.
oh, I wanted to kill Jack Lemmon through almost the entire movie. It's just go away.
Wow. So okay, this is I was so ashamed because I mean, for all I know, like our guest is not going to talk to us now, and I thought that you would like be. I was going to be honest about my feelings because I really genuinely didn't want to feel that way, and I thought, well, maybe it's tonight. Maybe I'm in a mood. But I kept on thinking, like, this movie is dying for Abbott and Costello to be in it.
Yeah,
And like, if Abbott and Costello were here, the stupidity level would be the right stupid level for this stupid idea. Because it's a
yeah,
really stupid idea.
yeah.
And I feel like, in a way, maybe Wilder and Diamond and company were it seemed a little bit maybe too smart to do, like a little too self-aware of how smart they wanted to make it when it really just needed more stupidity, I thought.
Now, the part of the movie that worked for me
Monroe.
is, you know, I'm gonna say something just so embarrassing. I've never been a Monroe person.
Okay. Well,
Um,
that's not terribly embarrassing. I mean,
I am all about Marianne, not Ginger, or Velma, not Daphne,
I don't
or
know what you're talking. Are you talking about you're not attracted to blondes? I don't know what you're saying.
no. But the character of Marianne on Gilligan's Island versus the character of Ginger.
Okay.
Or Velma in Scooby Doo as opposed to Daphne, or Samantha in Bewitched as opposed to Jeannie in
Okay.
I Dream of Jeannie.
But maybe
Uh,
outside of juvenile fantasies as a child, what do you think of her work?
um, I, I, I didn't. All I could when it got to the monologue there's that great monologue about saxophone players. And I kept thinking what that monologue would have been in the hands of a better actor. Because I didn't believe her for a moment. And I hate to say it, I don't get the allure.
That's not important. Nobody, I don't know that anybody needs to know that you aren't allured.
but that is so much of the mystique.
No, that's true. I get it. Yeah.
You know,
Look, there's I'm not like going to be an apologist for her or anything. I feel for her. I like her. I want her. Whenever I see her, I feel for her. I want her to succeed. I know how badly she felt about herself and how hard she was in herself. And I thought she was really great in this. I actually, honestly, this was one of my favorite Monroe performances. I felt like she was pushing past some of that fakery and some of that coquettishness that she was like saddled with early on. I thought she was kind of trying to break free of some of that. And I really thought she was kind of great as this crazy, hard drinking. I believed she was on the road like that, like in a way that I didn't really believe anybody else was. I really thought she kind of did some of that work that I didn't necessarily think Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon did. I didn't really believe they were musicians. I didn't really
even with the incredible bass fingering and spinning that Jack Lemmon was doing.
I also, but more to the point, like I didn't, and I think this was probably this like it was maybe on purpose. I don't know, but like the threat level was real for them. Like the stakes were very high, but I didn't feel like they were ever taking those things seriously enough for me to kind of care whether they got caught or not. But and George Raft isn't a bad enough dude for me to worry about him showing up. Like George Raft, it's just not. He's always like been a cartoon gangster to me. I never really fought, he had one move, which was flicking that coin up and down, which this is the funny moment in the movie where he runs into a guy who's flicking his coin up and down. And he looks at him and he's like, that's a nice trick.
And that's Edward G. Robinson, who he says it to.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's Edward G. Robinson Jr.
What I didn't,
who he has that dialogue.
What I didn't look up, because I looked up a lot more about The Apartment. I was in a mood about that because, like you, I flipped for The Apartment. That movie just blew me away, and I think is just I'm gonna go back to that again and again. And that's a movie that I saw when I was a teenager, didn't understand then, but now I came around to it and love it. So but
I will be going back to that. No, the part of this movie that actually worked for me was I loved all of the setup until we got to, I loved the gangster stuff. And I loved the faces of those gangsters. And by the way, did you recognize our very good friend Mike Mazurki?
Sure did. Oh yeah.
Moose Malloy from Murder My Sweet.
Moose Malloy.
Yeah,
he was a great face from a lot of those gangster movies.
Yep.
A lot of the whole crew was made up of guys from a lot of gangster movies.
Oh, those faces. And then the main guy, the not Rigoletto, but whatever the big gangster was who's running the show at the end.
Oh no, that guy with the hearing aid.
Yeah. Doing a full out Mussolini.
Amazing. He was great. He was great. That was a great speech and a great scene.
Yeah.
There were just choices throughout that I was like, again, I get things that really may have worked at the time in the moment, but Tony Curtis's choice to play the worst. What he decides to, okay, so those who haven't seen it, they dress in drag to pretend that they're in a women's band to escape the mob. They've been fingered by the mob. So they go off to Miami pretending to be players in a female orchestra. And they Oh, help me out here. I completely lost track. I got
Well,
overexcited.
and then while there, in the band is Marilyn Monroe, who wants to marry a millionaire, and Tony Curtis falls in love with her.
Yes.
And down in Miami, which is actually the Hotel Coronado in San Diego, which still stands, and I've been to it. It's an amazing place. Um, but which they shot at because they wanted Marilyn. They wanted to put Marilyn up there so she didn't have to get to set.
Mm,
She would be there already.
okay.
Yeah. And so Tony Curtis starts impersonating a Shell Oil
Yeah.
millionaire, and he chooses to do it as take it. This is where you were heading, Tony.
Thank you. He decides to pretend to be a Cary Grant character. So he
Yeah.
talks like Cary Grant. It's the worst Cary Grant impression ever. Curtis is apparently obsessed with Cary Grant and like was famous for doing this impression, but I don't know if he was supposed to be doing it bad or not. It wasn't good, but the movie takes place in 1920,
Yeah.
right? Cary Grant
I don't think Cary Grant was a star yet.
wasn't even making movies at that point. So I didn't quite understand how he would have gotten that reference. Again, just made for the people of the times. You know, I gotta say,
they were doing a time loop thing that Cary Grant in real life then saw this movie and decided to adopt that as his persona.
Christopher Nolan, Some Like It Hot.
Yes.
So I will say, you know, one thing that the movie deserves some credit for is smacking those censors around like crazy, because
like nobody's business.
They pushed the line on stuff in this movie for that time, for 1950. This is 1959.
Yeah.
They were pushing it as far as that could go in Hollywood, man. So good for them on that. Like, I actually wouldn't even begin to know if this movie today, for today's audience, might be offensive to some people or not. I'm assuming everything might be offensive to somebody.
Yes, I'm going to answer yes. There's offensive stuff.
Okay, well, okay, I'm sure there is, but I mean, in terms of like, I've never heard this movie discussed by people the way that some other films are, in terms like other older films are, in terms of like, it's never been pointed out yet. Maybe we'll, you know, see that happen, but they, you know, there was a lot of brave stuff about pushing the envelope, about things you could discuss sexually. You know, there was a lot of really kind of like great, really sly blue humor in this that they got away with. And I feel like a lot of the energy was them just cheekily trying to figure out how they could, you know, how far they could push it.
Yeah, and I read a bit about how groundbreaking it was at the time. But again, I'll go back to something like Miracle Morgan's Creek,
yeah,
which pushed the envelope
further than this,
Yeah, but in a funnier, much wittier way.
She doesn't know who the father is. That's like 1945. It's wow. Yeah.
She doesn't know who the father is. How many guys did she sleep with? She has 7 kids.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Yeah. And the implication is that they might be 7 different fathers. You know, I mean, it's who the hell knows?
They really pushed it on that. Yeah. It's true. It's true. Yeah,
and managed to make a funny movie at the same time. And for those of you who don't know, we're talking about Miracle Morgan's Creek, which is just one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, Preston Sturges, writer director Preston Sturges, one of my personal heroes.
Which a movie which I think I may have seen for the first time with our guest.
No kidding.
Because my first year in law school, there was a Preston Sturges Film Festival was it the Thalia? One of those Upper West Side.
I wasn't there. You were there with our guest, so you should ask him.
One of those Upper West Side movie theaters had a Preston Sturges Film Festival, and I remember that I went to almost every one of his movies there, and I think several times with our guest, who we don't want to disappoint anybody in the audience. It's not actually Billy Wilder. It's not our surprise guest.
It's better than that, Billy. It's
It's
better than
better
having.
than Billy Wilder. It's
Yeah.
somebody who worked with Billy Wilder.
Yeah. It's somebody who
Should
can actually talk about Billy Wilder in a way that Billy Wilder could never talk about Billy
Should we
Wilder.
bring him on? He may not want to come on after we
Well,
invite.
let's see if he's there. He may
Okay,
have
let's
just
see
hung
if
up.
he's still there. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're bringing our very good friend who we've known since. I mean, you've known John since you were like a year and a half.
Yeah.
You might not remember that.
No, I remember. Yeah, I mean, I remember him always being
there
in my life, but he, I don't remember the date. It was
okay.
It was pre-knowledge of it was prehistory.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, our friend John Corcus.
Hey,
welcome to the show.
Hey, fellas, give me a chance to switch the other light on.
Oh yeah, please.
It's not bright enough. It's really dark.
This is great stuff.
Well done. Excellent.
We didn't give him enough of a lead in there. There.
That's beautiful.
This is America. This is America. You can't do this in other countries, guys. You can only do this in America.
You can
How you do
the lights without getting it.
Or electrocuted. Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So, John, welcome to Show Business Night.
I've been having. Thanks, fellas. Thanks so much. I've been having. You've been from listening. You've been breaking up a lot. There's a connection problem. But,
really? Oh no!
It won't continue. Yeah,
that's bad news.
That's horrible.
A little bit that, but maybe it was just from my end. But let's keep talking, see what happens.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're not going to know until we hear the download.
We'll hear it back, or maybe there's a few people watching. Maybe they'll post a comment and tell us whether we're all breaking up.
Right. Don't count on it.
Yeah.
But right now, it may be in my. There goes again. But let's try. We'll see what happens.
It might be on your end because I'm hearing Tony fine, but you're breaking up on me.
Yeah.
Well, you sound okay right now.
Yeah. So tell us about Billy Wilder.
Okay.
Or tell us why we don't know what the hell we're talking about.
Well, first of all, John, you worked with Billy Wilder on one of his last films.
Oh yeah.
Oh, now we are frozen.
You're breaking up a lot. I get no, you're frozen, but I got to. I should say, if I go back a little bit, Jack Lemmon was one of my idols from when I was a kid, right? So the Apartment is my favorite film still, and I saw The Apartment when I was about 15, and I got to work with Jack twice. So when I was in my first job off Broadway for your dad, guys, Alan Arkin directing me in Little Murders off Broadway in 1969, they let me off for a week to do a one-scene part in Neil Simon's movie The Out-of-Towners with Jack Lemmon and Sandy Dennis and Bobby Walden. The four of us had one scene together, and that's when I met him. And I was incredibly nervous and excited to meet him. I almost couldn't speak. But the weather was bad, and Jack had a cold, so anytime there was a break, they'd whisk him out of the car and put him in the trailer and give him tea, so we never got to talk. Mm-hmm. But 5 years later, I got cast in the remake of The Front Page at Universal with Billy Wilder directing and Billy Wilder and I.A.L. Diamond writing the script, and Jack and Walter Matthau in the leads, and a lot of great actors in there, including my friends, Vinnie Gardenia, Paul Benedict, Austin Pendleton, Susan Sarandon was in there. I got to meet Charlie Durning, old timers like David Wayne.
Wow, that's a company of people. Wow.
And Dora Miranda, really going back. I mean, the whole whatever, all shot at Universal, but that was for 9 weeks. So I was working for 9 weeks with those guys every day, and I was with Jack every day, working face to face with him a lot of the time, and then hanging out with him a lot afterwards over the next year and spending time with him. So, I mean, all those guys were, I was in awe of them all the time. So, my dad was a big Billy Wilder fan because Billy Wilder grew up in the same place that my grandparents grew up in Austria. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So, where do I say this? Where do I start with this?
What year did you do the front page?
1974.
So was this? I'm not looking at the stats right now. This must have been Wilder's one of his last films, if not his last, right?
There were a number of them after.
Were there? Let me see.
He was only 68. He was only 68 years old then. And
Really?
He had a number of them left. Oh, yeah.
So he started pretty young in Hollywood then. I didn't realize he was a young guy.
He came to Hollywood as a screenwriter and escaped the Nazis to come here. Sold a script from Paris and got brought over to the United States and started as a writer and ultimately got to write for Ernst Lubitsch, who was his idol. He worshipped him.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote, I think, with Charles Brackett, they wrote Nanochka together, and God knows what else together. And Wilder never stopped praising
Nanochka, you're right. Yeah.
He just adored him and worshipped him. And Wilder was not that. Wilder's a pretty cynical guy, and he never spoke that way about Lubitsch. He just, worshipped him. So when I was on front page, I mean, I very much knew whose company I was in.
Yeah.
And also because of Jack, I couldn't wait to be around Jack and Walter,
Yeah.
But Wilder he was a showman. He took stage. You heard him, he made himself be heard. He wasn't mean, but he spoke up, and it was a performer in a sense. He had this great wit, a big voice, that heavy accent. He didn't hide in the background. He didn't go into the woodwork. Whereas Izzy Diamond, I.A.L. Diamond, his writing partner, who was an equal participant in the writing, was the other way. Iz was quiet. Iz was a lovely guy. He's a lovely man and really nice to talk to. But they were a great combination because they were nothing alike.
Right.
They were a real team. I got to know and be friendly with Paul Diamond, his son, who's a screenwriter, who's still friends to stay in L.A. And Rex McGee, who had written Wilder a fan letter as a young screenwriter. Billy was so taken by it that he invited Rex to be an observer on the set when we were there. And Rex became Billy's assistant, student, protege, till Billy died. He was 95, so more than 25 years. So those two guys are friends, and those guys are friends of each other as well. And those guys are two of the keepers of the flame, so to speak. I mean, they know all those things and whatever. But I wanted to say a little bit about the apartment. But you wanted me to tell you about that Irving Thalberg Award? I can tell you.
Well, yeah, we got to put a link. We want to put a link in our social to this because John says this is a great speech of Billy Wilder's.
Okay.
But Matt thought I could. All right, if I tell you what's in it, does it spoil it? I can tell you what's in
sure,
it.
Sure, no, go right ahead. And we can talk about anything on this show.
Okay, I don't want to ruin it, but no, I can tell you what's there, but you're still going to get to hear it anyway. You were all right with that, Tony, too? Yeah.
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 I don't know if you can hear me.
What did he say?
No, we're breaking up a little. All right. When he was, I don't know what more advanced age, but still active, but an icon already in the business, they gave him the Irving Thalberg Award at the Academy Awards one night. And he was introduced by Jack, by Lemmon, came out and spoke about him. And then Billy came out to a standing ovation in his thick accent, which I won't try to do. And he said he had come here. I can somewhat reverse the order of it. What I do know is, what I can tell you is that he was from Austria and he had emigrated to Berlin as a young guy, wanting to, because Berlin flourished in the arts in the 20s, right? In music, in painting, literature, and film. And there were other guys, mostly Jewish guys like himself, like Fred Zinnemann, the Siodmak brothers, Robert Siodmak, who made movies like The Killers, and his brother Kurt, he made horror movies like Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, a bunch of them. They were all making movies together in Berlin. And then gradually, as the Nazis were coming in, these guys were still hanging in there. And Peter Lorre, whose real name was Lowenstein, was Goebbels' favorite actor.
Oh, that's a distinction.
And I've heard
that's not something you want to have people remember.
It's funny because I'm pretty sure Laurie didn't have that on it.
Go ahead.
Didn't like have that on his resume. I don't think he like used that as an entree, like to get into the Brown Derby. I don't think he walked up to the to the maitre d' and said, I was Goebbels' favorite actor. What do you mean I can't get a table?
I don't think so. Why can't I get a table? I don't understand. So he was in the middle of all this time when people were still somehow insanely hanging in and not leaving Berlin, but the Nazis were there. Evidently, Peter Lorre ran into Goebbels in an elevator, and Goebbels told him he thought it was time for him to go on tour, which was the best way he could say to him, "You better get out now." So he got out.
It's sort of like Hollywood right now,
came home one day from. Yeah, right.
We're all holding on. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's going to be fine. So Wilder said that he came home one night and his landlady said to him there was some men looking for him, and he knew right away. So he had to pack some belongings and get on the midnight train to Paris and get out before they got him. And it was from Paris that he started to submit material to Hollywood. And eventually he got something picked up and it got him out to Hollywood. I think he roomed with Peter Lorre out there for starters, but he was starting to try to make his way as a screenwriter. And as things were beginning to happen, but he was still sweating it out, he got a letter saying that he had to either fulfill or renew his visa somehow, and that he didn't have enough records to present. So he had to, in order to stay in the country, he had to prove all sorts of things with more documentation. And he obviously could not go back to Germany to do that. So
could he get a letter from? Could he get a letter of reference from Goebbels?
Yeah, help out my pal. So he went to Mexicali, I guess, to cross the border from California, whatever, to the consulate there. And as he says in this speech, when he accepted the Irving Thalberg Award, he said he went in and there was a man, American consulate sitting there who didn't know behind a desk. And Wilder said he was soaking wet. And he said, it wasn't that from the heat. He said it was from nerves. He said he thought he was a goner because he knew he didn't have the papers. And the guy just kept staring at him and considering him. And he went through the papers and Wilder was sitting there. And he said to Wilder, he says, well, you don't have the papers that you need. I need more. And Wilder said, well, the only way I could get them for you is to go back to Germany and I'd be on a train for Buchenwald. He said, there's no way I can do it. Whatever. I don't know how. And the guy kept staring at him. And finally he said to him, what do you do? And he said, I write movies. And he just took time and looked at him. He got up and he walked around the room with Wilder. It was just a basket case sitting there. He looked around the room, walked around the room and came back and looked at him for a while and then took out a stamp and stamped all his papers. And he gave him back his papers. He said, write good ones.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
wow.
It gets me even now. It gets me.
Oh, my God. So he made he made good on that. He did write good ones after that too.
There's two different ways. There's two different ways I thought that story was going to go, though. I thought you were going to say that when his landlady said to him, "Somebody came here looking for you," that Thalberg was going to say, "My agent came to the house."
The landlord.
The landlord that he was going to say to the landlord, right. my agent came to the house, and then I thought that you were going to say that the guy at the consulate, when he said I write movies, that the guy at the consulate was going to say, I have a script, will you read it? And that's what got him back into the country.
It would happen now. So he told that story exactly as close as I get to it. When he accepted the Thalberg Award, he told the story I just told, ending with "We'll write good ones," and he said to the audience something like, "Well, I've been doing my best ever since." And then he said, "I have so many people to thank." And he said something like, "I don't know his name, but that wonderful man that saved my life," whatever there. And at the end, he said, he held it up. And he said, "I.A.L," something like "Get better. Part of this is for you." Because evidently Iz might have been dying then, or he might have been sick. It was serious. And that was the speech. Just incredible. And, yeah, but yeah, he did do something.
Amazing.
But,
Amazing.
But if you
So
yeah, go ahead.
No, this was going to be a slightly pivot idea. So tell me what you were going to say.
We're losing John.
We
About
lost
the
John.
apartment, you mean? Yeah.
No, I was going to ask. So
you're breaking.
Okay. Yeah. Do you remember the first time you saw The Apartment's been your favorite movie since you were 15? Is that true? He won't answer me.
I saw it when I was about...
He doesn't want to talk to you anymore.
He's done with us. How do you stack up?
You're breaking up so much.
I'm sorry about that. Maybe it'll get better. It was great for a while.
Yeah. It's on your end, John, because I've gotten messages from people saying that Tony and I are coming through fine. It's your internet connection that is the problem.
And I can't hear you guys very well.
Sadly.
Yeah, I don't know what to do.
If you can hear this, how do you stack up Some Like It Hot against The Apartment?
You can't. They're not at all alike, and they're not in the same genre or the same world. It's different. And they just happen to be written by the same two guys.
Well, I can stack them up again. I can stack them. You can stack them up in the sense that I can say I'm a huge fan of The Apartment and not so much of Some Like It Hot. They are very different movies. I prefer the Some Like It. I prefer the Apartment vein from Wilder. Okay. So I'm not crazy. As a big Wilder aficionado, you agree that The Apartment is much more, that's what he is best at, that kind of movie.
Yeah.
Apartment. Ace in the Hole.
Yeah, The Apartment is my
Sunset
favorite
Boulevard. Okay.
Yeah. Ace in the Hole, Double Indemnity.
Yeah. Yeah. And The Lost Weekend.
Lost Weekend's kind of, I think, kind of dated for me, or it doesn't work for me like it used to. But
it's also a laugh riot.
What I was going to say about Some Like It Hot, I saw it when I was younger, right? So I saw it when I was, 12, maybe 13. It still has a lot of nostalgia for me, and there's still moments in that I really do find funny. But there are things in the humor that are dated that don't hold up anymore,
Right.
And also you might, I don't know if you notice, I did, and I kind of checked it out to some people, and I'm pretty sure it's true that they don't say it is. When Jack is in the film, everything that Jack does is Jack's voice, right? When Tony is in drag, that's not Tony's voice.
Really?
Yeah, that's somebody.
Oh, wow.
They dubbed it.
Yeah.
Why didn't they dub him when he was trying to be Cary Grant?
But see
that would have been even more useful.
That's the part I don't agree with. I think it's supposed to be nakedly a bad impression. I don't think it's supposed to be a good impression. Otherwise,
well, I didn't know. I just thought it was terrible. I didn't know if it was on purpose or not.
But that's fine. It's fine that it's a bad impression. But it's a bad impression of an actor who wasn't famous yet.
Oh, he was a huge star then. You kidding me?
In 1920?
In 1929?
Oh, you mean by then? Oh, for our audience,
right? So yeah, I mean, it was.
Oh,
I mean, and yeah, no, in 1960 was a huge star,
yeah.
but
That was a wink, It was a wink.
yeah,
I did. It never.
That was come on. That was a schmink.
that was a.
A wink,
It didn't. It didn't make me laugh.
but it does. That's okay. That's okay.
No, for me, what I've established is that I am now after rewatching The Apartment and rediscovering what is now like bona fide one of my favorite films of the period. Now it's such a great movie in every respect, and it is so much to me like the pinnacle of Billy Wilder, to what Billy Wilder's meant to me. I mean, I'm a huge Sunset Boulevard fan, as I said. I think my favorite mode of his is darker, more darker vision of humanity. It's more acerbic than this film. I just think that when he's making stuff that's got that kind of merciless edge to it,
Right.
the Billy Wilder stuff I love, and
I
somehow he's maybe a little too precise for the kind of screwball comedy I like, which is much more kind of chaotic than he usually has in his
And
frames.
also, I read some stuff. They talk about how this was somewhat groundbreaking. They hadn't done drag in movies before. Men dressing as women and all of that. And but in to the extent that might have been groundbreaking, there was no other aspect of them doing that was groundbreaking. These characters don't learn anything from dressing up as women other than that it's hard to walk in heels. Like their characters don't have any realizations. None of that in the writing ever gets explored. They make crass comments about the women, right? Comments like when the steam blasts Marilyn and they watching her walk by, they look at her from behind and he says it's like Jello on springs. But they never and then they get treated badly by men. They get chased after by men, but they never have any realization about that. And so in places where they could have gone a little bit, and I don't mean they have to do some movie about social commentary or anything like that, but the movie had no conscience to me of any kind.
I don't think that would have bothered you a damn bit if it had made you laugh consistently from beginning to end.
Exactly.
I mean, because Laurel Hardy doesn't have any conscience or morality to it, but it's like
and I'm also the guy who liked Mike Hammer beating the crap.
It is. You are. That's true.
So,
John, he's a complete madman. He's a sociopath. Just so you know.
But if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna have absolutely no social conscience, you better make a movie that entertains the hell out of me.
Well, I think what John was saying is that it did entertain him, and it entertained generations of people before we showed up and had smart ass things to say. But nevertheless, it's still out there for everybody to have an opinion about.
I'm not.
You apparently, John, can't hear us very well, but this is exactly how we like to keep our guests somewhat in the dark about what's happening.
Yeah. And that they can't argue back with us.
No, they can't say a thing. He's trapped in his own apartment trying to communicate ideas, and this is great podcasting, folks.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
Trying to speak. I did have a couple more things to say to you about The Apartment.
Okay.
That
quickly
you may or may not know. Well, all right. They wrote it for Jack. Okay, you may know that. I don't know.
I didn't know they wrote it for Jack. I did not know that.
Bill. Oh, definitely intentionally wrote it for Jack. Yeah, and the source of the story. There are two sources to the story. Do you know this? Have you ever heard this?
I don't.
Yes.
No.
All right. One of them is according to Wilder, is David Lean's movie Brief Encounter.
No kidding.
with Celia Johnson and
Trevor Howard.
Trevor,
Yeah.
right, about a married, a very innocent married woman who meets this doctor by chance on the subway, on a train coffee
And
shop.
they have the most British love affair that ever existed, which consisted
Right,
of,
and it doesn't
oh,
really hold.
pardon me. Oh, I'm so terribly sorry. The end. The love affair.
And they try to consummate it. They try to consummate it at the apartment of a friend of his, right? So
Okay.
Wilder has said it was one of the first things that gave him the idea for the apartment, because he kept thinking, what's it like for the guy whose apartment it is?
Wow.
And he comes home to, as Wilder said, a warm bed. Okay. Yeah. But the other part is you may or may not know this. MCA used to be a big agency, and eventually, because they were both a studio and an agency, the antitrust laws made them split up, and they became Universal, and MCA kind of went its way, right? But a big agent at MCA was having a secret affair with his client, Joan Bennett, this movie star, right? And they were meeting regularly at the apartment of a junior agent. And her husband was a producer named Walter Wanger, who found out of it. And it was either in a garage or on a stairway. And he approached this guy, this agent, and shot him in the crotch. And the guy miraculously survived it. And the two different versions. One version is that he lost one testicle, and the other is that either way, he survived it enough to go on and have another marriage and have children with somebody else. And
forever after, Wanger's name was pronounced Wanger.
Yeah, right.
Or he was called the Lone Wanger.
Sorry. So that's a remarkable story. I didn't know that one, John. That's crazy.
Wow.
Wow. Do you remember falling madly in love with
the interview?
Go ahead.
This is a nightmare.
Do you remember falling madly in love with Shirley MacLaine after seeing this movie? He's too stunned to say it.
He's thunderstruck.
Did you have a big crush on Shirley MacLaine after seeing this when you were a teenager? I would have imagined so, yeah. Yes, but maybe not. Okay.
Oh, very, very much so.
She was like a pretty fresh face on the scene, wasn't she? She hadn't. I'm not sure, but she hadn't really done much before The Apartment, right? Or was that her first?
I don't know what the first thing was, but yeah, it was pretty important.
Let's see. I have IMDb. I can look this up. I don't know, but I can find out. No, it wasn't the first. No, it was like her 10th movie. She'd already done Can, Ask Any Girl, Some Came Running, The Matchmaker. She was already a star. Around the World in 80 Days. She'd already done that. She was so great. Man, was she great in this movie.
It was the only part she played like that. It made such an impression that it felt like it was the first time you'd seen her, right?
Oh, she's so great.
Well, she was a discovery. She was the discovery on Broadway because she was in the chorus of Pajama Game, and Carol Haney was playing the part and got sick and couldn't go on. And it's like those stories. Shirley went on and she had that show-stopping dance number called Steam Heat, and studio people saw her and she got a contract out of it.
Wow.
Similar to my story.
But, yeah.
Did you know that for The Apartment, Billy Wilder was the first person to win Academy Awards for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay with The Apartment?
I didn't know that. Wow. Oh my God.
First person to do the triple header that way.
Wow.
Here's the question that I want to ask. Oh, I'm disappointed that Joan Shawlee wasn't in Front Page. So you don't have any Joan Shawlee stories for us.
Yeah, man. We're big Joan Shawlee fans over here on the podcast.
Who was it?
Joan Shawlee played Sweet Sue in Some Like It Hot, the band leader. She plays.
I lost you guys completely.
Joan Shawlee. She played Sweet Sue in Some Like It Hot, the band leader. She played the one of the secretaries in in the apartment who's having an affair, the first one, and she's throughout the movie, and she's also, just by chance, this apparently our show is a Joan Shawlee celebration, because I think she's been in at least 2 or 3 other movies that we've done.
At
on
least
the show.
2, yeah. Women on the Run and one other. She's fantastic.
She keeps popping up everywhere.
I loved her in Some Like It Hot. I thought she was great, and in fact, I just could have used more of the band, like more band life, more with these ladies. I thought that was all great. The stuff on the train was great. You know, everybody crammed into his berth. That was really cool.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, man, I'm going back to watch. You know, I'm gonna watch all the Wilder stuff again, and the stuff that I haven't seen. And I got to see the Front Page, John. I've never seen it. That's crazy. Do you know if it's readily available? The Front Page.
I couldn't understand you, Tony. We're breaking up. Like
do you know if the Front Page is easy to get your hands on?
I'm looking it up right.
If it's viewable,
I don't see it available. I don't see it available on any of the services.
It may be on Front Page. It may be on Amazon Prime.
We're looking for it. I hope there is. I gotta track it down.
No,
it is.
It's not.
I think it's on Amazon.
Prime right now.
No, not on or rent or buy on Amazon.
No.
So.
Let's see if it's on johncorcus.com.
You might be able to buy it. It's yeah. What is your website, John? You keep an up-to-date website, don't you?
I don't got one. No.
He don't got one. Oh my God.
We gotta hook you up, John. We gotta hook you up with a website.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we do with every guest. This whole show is about selling people some websites.
Our website service. Yeah, we design websites for people.
Killer sites. You're not gonna believe how great they are.
You're gonna get so much work after this podcast drops. Your phone is going to be ringing.
John, before we
just remember, I don't do Windows.
Before
I don't do
well,
Windows.
the deal's off. So before we wrap up, is there anything you're doing right now? Anything you want to? Anything that you have on the air, online? Any recent work? Any teaching you want to talk about? Anything you're doing right now that's exciting or?
He's frozen again.
You got to say it again, pal. I couldn't even hear it.
Oh, I was just asking you what you got going on right now. If there's anything you wanted to promote or any.
It didn't freeze, but just.
Yes. Well,
he'll tell us about it later, and we'll put it in. We'll put it in the comments.
We'll put it in the comments. Anything that if you can hear me now, I won't. Yes, we won't even belabor that.
Yeah. But we're gonna say goodnight to our guest because we're having some technical difficulties, and Tony and I have to figure out what we're gonna do for next week.
All right.
So we're gonna boot you back to the green room, but thank you for sharing that Thalberg story with us and the other observations about him. And we love you, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, John. If you can hear us.
Good night.
Fellas. Thank you.
I hope everything's okay at that apartment after the. You too, man.
The water's rising.
That's too bad. The technical
The technical
issues.
thing was a drag. So what are we going to do next week?
Well, this is a question that we should have asked ourselves before we
should
are
have talked
wasting
about
people's
it.
time. That's
Okay,
what I think.
we're going to talk after the show, and we're going to decide what to do next week. And I will announce it on my Facebook page. I will put it up on the arkinbrothers.com, which is our website.
There you go.
And people can go find out what we're doing next week there.
Yeah.
All right.
And we hope fewer technical issues. Matthew will be in his new apartment with a better setup.
Everything's going to be fantastic.
It's going to be great. You just wait and see what the fall's going to have in store for you and us. Wow.
So many things. All right. Good night, everybody.